a sound check over there as well. So let me know if you hear me on TikTok and if the sound is good for you, volume's fine, everything's good. As my typical warm-up routine goes, I start the room about 10 minutes early and I make sure the sound's good on both platforms, TikTok, YouTube. I'm streaming simultaneously. Actually not simultaneously because YouTube is always lagging behind, but as close as we can get. I'm broadcasting to YouTube with a delay. So anybody give me a sound check? Can anybody hear me on either platform? Let's see, do I have a chat for? I do have a chat for TikTok. So that should let me see if I got people in TikTok. Hello, Shelby on YouTube. Can you hear me fine? Is the volume okay for you? Oh, I got two places I can see that chat. Okay, good. Got to move some stuff around on my screen. Sound is a little low on TikTok, I presume. A little low on TikTok. Is it because I'm just kind of mumbling right now, or like, because now that I'm talking full volume, how's it sound for you? I can hear you on YouTube. Okay, is the volume fine over there on YouTube? Welcome into the room. We'll get started here in about 8 minutes. 8 minutes. Until that time, settle in, grab some popcorn, grab a drink. It's a lot to talk about. You hear good on YouTube or TikTok hears me fine. I can hear good. Okay, so that's at least one person telling me this. One person sounds a little low. One person says you can hear good. So we're in between there. Sounds like we're okay on YouTube as well. So good. We'll get started here shortly in about 8 minutes, given time for the room to warm up. I always encourage you to give me some likes or taps on the screen and TikTok to get some momentum going on the room if you're willing to do that. It's a free little gesture, but it can help us out a lot to get a good start. Thank you so much for that. That helps a lot. YouTube, our viewership on YouTube is still very low on live streaming nights. I don't know if it's something I'm doing wrong. I'm just not connecting with the live chat over there. But yeah, okay. Thanks for. I'll see you in a minute when you get back. Grab yourself a drink and a snack and settle in. And I can't even play any music to entertain myself, because if I play music, especially on YouTube is massive copyright infringement wary, and if they hear any copyrighted music, they'll shut me off and maybe even kick me off the platform. It's like a lot of things YouTube has a lot more tolerance about, but copyrighted music is not one of them. All right. If you guys can share my live, by the way, with other people who might be interested, this is going to be a really big one. I think this is going to have a lot of meaty content. So if you got anybody who is interested in again, for some of you, it'll be old news because the motion by Karen Agnifilo has been out there for a day or so. And the prosecutor who was recused from the case has been out. That news has been out there for a day or so. So it's my first time giving you my first takes or my opinions. I believe that I will have something for you that you will have not heard from somebody else. I'm almost certain of it. We'll see. Listen to this while having lunch at KFC. Definitely not McDonald's. Good for you. All right. The KFC audience in the back. I hope you had headphones on. Otherwise, everybody at KFC is going to be like, what the hell's going on that guy's phone? That girl's phone. Yeah, Sarah's phone. All right, just giving some time to warm up. Again, share this, subscribe while we're waiting. Share the stream with anybody that might be interested. It's going to be a lot. I'm going to cover a lot of really big stuff. And so if there was ever a live, I feel like that you have wanted to see, it's going to be this one. There's going to be some real meat in this. It's not just going to be an open Q&A session. I have a ton to cover and a ton of opinions, and hopefully some opinions that you haven't already heard from your favorite streamers. So we'll see how this goes. See if I can give you a unique perspective on a thing or two. Oh, Misho gave me a gift on TikTok. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. That's awesome. I wish it was I didn't have to beg for gifts. That would be, I hate begging for gifts. I don't want to beg for gifts. So gifts of your own free accord are amazeballs. Just a few more minutes. We got 4 minutes until I officially start my monologue. We're a little low tonight. It's sad. I've got so much great content tonight to cover. It's sad that we only have, maybe it's a Friday night and everybody's out. It's summer, and it's, you know, the weather's getting better, and it's Friday night and everybody's out getting their own thing on. So I get it. Maybe you don't want to spend Friday night listening to a TikToker who just gives rambling opinions. So, but anyways, for those of you who decided to stay with me on a Friday night, thank you so much. And we will get rolling here in about 4 minutes. And despite the fact that we have a low start to tonight's topic is all Luigi Mangione, and it's all about the prosecutor that was recused or recused themselves. That's a little sketchy for me still. In the case, the possibility of a mistrial in Luigi Mangione's case, the motion to dismiss, and the case by Karen Agnifilo, the 57-page document that she released. I'm going to go through like 4 major topics on that. So it's all going to be Luigi Mangione tonight, and I'm not going to have time to cover everything I want to cover. I'll explain that in a minute, because I'm going to run out of steam, or I'm going to run out of breath, or you're going to run out of time, one or the other, because there's just so much. It's a 57-page document, and I'm probably going to spend 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, just covering the prosecutor that was recused early. So, you know, before we even get into the 57-page document. So yeah, hold your hats. There's going to be a lot to talk about. 3 minutes. 3 minutes till we start the official thing. And Remy, thank you for being so excited that you wouldn't miss this. That's amazing. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. I do have some very very positive followers who are excited about what I have to talk about, and that's awesome. It helps out a lot. Helps me maintain my energy level when I know that people are excited to tune in. So again, thanks for the hearts that are coming, the likes. That helps the TikTok. If you know we're a little low still, if you can help out, get us started, that's great. In 2 minutes, I'm going whether or not we have anybody here or not. Looks like we just got a handful of people on YouTube, but we have a pretty small audience on TikTok. That sucks. But hey, we're gonna still cover it like it's just you and me. We're gonna cover it regardless. About 2 minutes now before the start. Do 2 minutes. I don't. And by the way, so I'm going to have some. I have some moderators in the room helping out tonight. My wife, the She Devil, is on a trip today. She will be back sometime, probably in the middle of this live, but she's not going to be here for the beginning. She may or may not be listening in her car right now. She isn't a driver. She's a passenger. She said she might be listening, but I don't know how that's going to work out. Hopefully the whole car isn't listening. That would be embarrassing, wouldn't it? Hopefully I don't think she has headphones with her. So hopefully the whole car is not listening. That would be embarrassing. She just should not even comment if that's the case. But if you see her log into the room, she's not here with me like she normally is. She's in a car somewhere driving, and we'll be back shortly. In the meantime, I have new moderators that are going to help out tonight. I've got a handful of people who are going to help me if they're here tonight to moderate the room and just make sure that everybody stays positive and that there's no shenanigans, because I don't have my wife looking out for me to tap me on the shoulder and like, you need to deal with that guy. So, which doesn't happen all that often, to be honest with you. About 1 minute or less, and we'll get started with my official launch of my diatribe, if you will. Hello, Denise. All right. Are we ready? We're at 6 o'clock. All right. So let me remind you that we are simultaneously casting on both TikTok and YouTube. I have a lot of websites. Well, I've got like 3 websites, and I got 2 legal documents to review with you. You're going to have a lot harder time seeing them on TikTok above me than you will on YouTube beside me, because it's just a bigger screen on a computer, right? So hopefully you'll do your best to be able to follow along up there. And every once in a while, I'm going to have to shift the image. YouTube should just kind of be nice and stable. If you are, I do recommend you watch on YouTube. I'm a long form kind of guy. Most of my content is long rants. Thank you for the gifts, by the way. So most of my content is long. I'm not a short form kind of guy. And so we do our best to do lives on TikTok. That's my bread and butter here. But YouTube is where I do a lot of my long form content. So again, if you're watching in both places, I do recommend you mute the sound on TikTok and go ahead and keep watching on TikTok. It helps the algorithm that you're following, but you might want to follow along on YouTube on a bigger screen if you have that option. All right, so as a disclaimer, as always, if you look at my website above, this is the Devil's Advocates. I have a disclaimer on my page, which takes forever to reload, unfortunately, but we're going to give it a second. And basically, the disclaimer says this: everything you hear tonight is basically educational and entertainment purposes. Don't consider me news. I'm not an authority. I'm not an attorney. If I borrow stuff, it's usually from mainstream media sources, and I'll read those and I'll show them. I believe it's covered under fair use. I'm allowed to read things that are out there in the public domain is under fair use. I will be talking about a whole bunch of stuff. As a reminder, again, I am not an attorney, but I break down a lot of law. And I've been saying a lot of things in this case with the Luigi Mangione. I've been teaching you, if you've been following, I've been teaching you about my interpretation of a very interesting law in Pennsylvania, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, about when it's appropriate or not appropriate, or when it's a crime to present false identification to a police officer. Tonight has a stunner. I'm so excited. I've been telling you guys for forever, it's not against the law to provide a false identification to a police officer unless you've been informed they're under investigation. And Karen points this out better than ever. And the law enforcement officers know they broke the law there, by the way. They know they did. I'm going to show it to you. If you haven't seen it, it's huge. And I feel so vindicated. Like, that's kind of snotty, but I feel like so vindicated. I've been telling people for forever this was against the law for them to do. And an law enforcement officer admits, essentially, by his actions, you will see it, that he knew it was against the law. So tonight, you're going to be, when we're following along, it's going to be follow the color night. By that, I mean I'm going to have legal documents, and I'm going to have like 4 different colors you're going to see in highlighting. The first topic is going to be highlights that are in yellow. And so I might scroll through a document and you'll see sections that are highlighted in yellow, and others that are in blue, and others that are in green, and others that are orange. And then there's even a color of purple. Each one of those colors is a different thought topic. I have 4 main topics tonight. They'll be basically the yellow, the green, the blue, and the orange. Purple is going to be extra content that we probably are not going to have time to get to tonight. If you want to hear my take on all the purple stuff, if we don't get to it tonight, I'm going to probably cover that. Probably going to cover that as member-only content on YouTube. I'm moving to a subscription basis, very, very cheap on YouTube, for extra stuff. So the main important stuff, we're going to hit the 4 main topics, and it's going to be the biggest stuff. But if you want to hear my rants on the other purple stuff that you're going to see fly by that's highlighted, that'll be extra content. And if you want to subscribe, I'm going to provide a lot of extra content for people that just didn't have time to fit into the main show, because you can only listen to me ramble for so long before you're like, oh my God, dude, shut up. All right, so let's get into this. I'm going to give you my three main points for the night early, so that you can understand where this is going. And if for some reason you can't watch throughout the night, keep in mind this is all streamed on YouTube, and the replay is available on YouTube. If you're following me on TikTok, you should also be able to follow the replay on TikTok. But YouTube will have this whole thing available for you to watch at your own convenience. So if you knew that there was something coming up, based on what I'm going to tell you in a minute, that you didn't get to hear because you fell asleep and I put you to sleep, you can wake up later and you can listen to the rest of it. So here are the 3 main opinions that I'm going to have. And let me tell you again, for the record, I am not an attorney, but I will be breaking down the law, and I will be giving you opinions about the law. I could be wrong. Even lawyers can be wrong. Even judges can be wrong. I've pointed this out before. There's the reason why I have appellate courts, because sometimes a judge will rule incorrectly, and a higher court has to say, no, judge, even you don't understand the law, apparently. So this happens. I can be wrong. Attorneys can be wrong. Judges can be wrong. Appellate courts could probably be wrong. So keep in mind, it's an opinion. Opinion number 1, if you will, tonight is this. A federal prosecutor has been recused from the case against Luigi Mangione. That part's not an opinion, that is fact. A federal prosecutor has been recused from the case against Luigi Mangione. The opinion of mine is that the reason why he was recused was because of prosecutorial misconduct. He actually committed a crime and violated Luigi Mangione's civil liberties and his rights. We're going to cover why I think in mainstream media why this person recused themselves. Now, last I looked, The notice about the prosecutor recusing, whether they recused themselves or they got recused, that's up for debate. By the way, recusal basically is when somebody is either steps down themselves because they have found a conflict of interest, or they've done something improper or illegal, or some way they have to step away from the case. A person can also be recused by a judge or a higher authority that says you're kicked off the case because you've done something that has a conflict of interest, a bias, or you've committed prosecutorial misconduct. I believe this individual actually committed prosecutorial misconduct. I'm going to show you where I think it happened, and I'm going to point it out to you in mainstream media sources. So that's opinion number one. Prosecutor actually committed prosecutorial misconduct, and it could potentially lead to a mistrial. Not likely, but it could potentially. It also could lead to jail time for that prosecutor. Not likely, but we're going to explain those things. Opinion number two. And by the way, so yeah, opinion number two. The arrest in Altoona, Pennsylvania, my opinion, is 100% illegal. It was an illegal arrest. Both Thomas Dickey in Pennsylvania, thank you, by the way, for the shout outs on TikTok. Both Thomas Dickey in Pennsylvania said it was an illegal arrest. Karen Agnifilo hammered again. 100% completely illegal arrest. I was telling you from my armchair analysis of the law, and again, I'm not an attorney, that I could read the law and I can tell you they broke the law. Law enforcement broke the law. And I can tell you that from reading the law because I can interpret the law, and I understand what the appellate courts said. They broke the law. Karen Agnifilo repeated, they broke the law. An officer on scene, this is the part that makes me giddy with excitement. An officer on scene basically acknowledged they broke the law. They broke the law. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it, and I'm going to show you in the writings where they broke the law and how they know they broke the law. And opinion number three, this should already be a mistrial. In my opinion, that's my opinion number three. This already should be a mistrial. Unfortunately, it's not going to be, and I'll tell you why. Because unfortunately, the government and the government just has too much to stake. They are not going to let Luigi Mangione walk, even if they do a whole bunch of illegal shit to get him put away. That's my cynical view. I'm not taking that as don't go out there and be violent. Don't be angry. Don't do something horrible. I do not condone violence in any shape or form. What I'm telling you is the simple fact of the matter is this case means too much to the government to let Luigi walk, whether or not people broke the law to get him put away or not. So there's my cynical view. My view is this very much should be a mistrial. That's my opinion. Absolutely. We already have grounds for a mistrial, and it should be a mistrial. Whether or not I don't think the prosecution, they're not going to let that happen. So even though it should be a mistrial, and I'll tell you why, it's not going to happen, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because not because I'm trying to, let me make this clear. I do not condone violence. If Luigi Mangione did the things that they say he did, I'm not saying that that's a good thing and that he should just walk, okay? But what I'm saying is I believe that law enforcement, mainstream media, and our legal system, this is what my whole channel is about, our judicial system, should be held to a higher standard. We shouldn't convict people in the court of a public opinion before they've had their first day in trial. We shouldn't have to do illegal things to put somebody away because we know they're guilty and we don't know how to make the case stick, so we'll do illegal things to put them away. None of that shit should happen. So unfortunately in our country, that's probably not the right way to say it. In our country, we believe that it's better for a guilty person to walk than for one innocent person to go to jail. In order to do that, we have to uphold the standard that law enforcement is held to a higher standard. They can't just make up shit to put people away because they know you're the guy and they're just going to make you go away whether or not they did it legally or not. That's the gist of my whole channel. So again, let me reiterate. I'm not condoning violence. I'm not saying if Luigi Mangione did the things that they say that he did, that he should walk because it was justified or whatever the case may be. We're not making those comments. What we're saying is my channel is an education channel to help you understand how mainstream media shapes public opinion before the trial even starts, how it leads to the possibility or probability that Luigi Mangione will never get a fair trial, and that our law enforcement can very, very likely committed illegal acts to get the bad guy put away because they believe he's the bad guy. And again, in our country, it's not right for you to, I know you're the bad guy, so I'm going to put you away, even if I have to do so illegally. All right, let's continue on. I'll demonstrate tonight, by the way, my firm belief that law enforcement willingly and knowingly broke the law when they arrested Luigi Mangione. I'll show you that without a doubt. And that's not hate speech to say that. My analysis, by the way, again, is just for holding the media, law enforcement, and judicial system accountable. And regardless of whether you think he's guilty or not, he must be given a fair trial. And we already have set up a precedent that Luigi Mangione is not getting a fair trial. All right, let's go ahead and dive into the details. This is where it gets crazy. Let's first talk about that federal prosecutor who's been recused. This is what I believe happened. Now, it's a little difficult, and I might have one little piece wrong. So just bear with me if I state one piece wrong. The gist of what I'm going to tell you right now is 100% verifiable, and I'm going to show you in mainstream media, and I'm going to prove it to you here with the documents. Luigi Mangione was arraigned in federal court on April 25th. During that arraignment, Karen Agnifilo, his attorney, informed the judge, Margaret Garnett, I believe was the judge who was presiding in the federal case, that she had been informed that the state and the federal government, the state and the federal prosecutors had been spying on and eavesdropping on her attorney-client privileged phone calls between herself and Luigi Mangione. Now, she stated before the court that she was informed by the state, by the federal government actually, that the state had been eavesdropping and the federal government had been eavesdropping on their calls. Under oath and in that court, a federal prosecutor told Karen Agnifilo, or told the judge, when the judge said, "Can you please explain to me what just happened? What is she saying?" And the person said, "Your Honor, this is the first we've heard of that." That, I believe, is a 100% lie. I'm going to show you from mainstream media sources that it was a 100% lie, and Karen called him out on it. So what does that leave us? If I'm right about what happened, and I'm going to show you where it happened, if I'm right, you have a prosecutor lying under oath saying they had no clue until that moment in court that day that they had been eavesdropping on Luigi Mangione and Karen Agnifilo's phone calls. They lied to the extent that they did it. The judge ordered them to basically put in writing what their response is and what they did and what they're doing to rectify it not happening in the future. Wait till you see the documents on this. It's going to get crazy. Let's go ahead and dive into this. Well, first of all, by the way, this is my channel on YouTube. I guess I was going to show you that, but we don't need to go to that yet. We're going to go right here. All right. This is from Newsweek, April 30th, and it looks like we're centered on as good as we can on TikTok and also YouTube. Luigi Mangione's prosecutors deny eavesdropping on his calls. Prosecutors for the Southern District of New York, that's the federal government, have denied eavesdropping on Luigi Mangione's calls with his attorney. In a letter to Garnett, that's Judge Margaret Garnett, on Tuesday, federal prosecutors said that no one at the New York County District Attorney's Office, DANY, or the government, so that's the state and the government prosecution, had eavesdropped on the defendant on a live basis. So that was their statement in a letter to the judge. This was in response, so this is where I'm having to read between the lines. In court, Karen said, "I have been informed that the government, both the state and the federal government, are spying on my phone calls, my attorney-client phone calls, totally illegal, against the Constitution. I've been informed that they're spying on my phone calls." They wrote a letter to the judge after that, I believe, that said no one in the state or the government has been eavesdropping on a live basis. They further stated prosecutors listening to calls between the defendant and their attorneys can be a violation of the defendant. This is the news saying this, can be a violation of the defendant's Sixth Amendment right to counsel and attorney-client privilege. Yes, that's a constitutional violation if they did it, and could threaten the case against Luigi Mangione. Yes, that is grounds for a complete mistrial. Because if Luigi Mangione cannot get a fair trial, let me break this down for you in case you're missing the key things. If the prosecution listened in on attorney-client privileges, even if someone gets fired over that, they recuse themselves or they are recused for eavesdropping and listening in on the attorney-client privilege, you can guarantee that prosecutor shared that information about that secret phone call they listened in on with other prosecutors. And so one person can step down and take the fall and say, look, we've rectified the situation. We fired the prosecutor that was listening to the phone calls. I guarantee you everyone in both or both prosecutions know everything about that private phone call between Luigi Mangione and Karen Agnifilo. Depending on what they heard in that call, it could be grounds for a complete and 100% mistrial. Over. You just violated his U.S. constitutional rights. He can't get a fair trial now if you guys know ahead of time secret information. That's not how our court systems work. It should be a mistrial based on that right there. Let's continue on. The judge had ordered prosecutors, the judge, that's Margaret Garnett, ordered prosecutors to submit a letter within 7 days, I think maybe they did it that day, confirming that Mangione would have access to a secure line and that his calls aren't accessible to any member of the prosecution team. At first, I was concerned about the way the judge worded it. It was almost like the judge is saying, hey, if you guys are doing this, stop doing it and make sure that going forward, he's got a secure line. In my opinion, not good enough. If you've already been doing it, you already broke the law. You have already broken the law. So it's not good enough to fix it going forward. You already broke the law. This could be a mistrial right now. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not the only one who thinks that. The letter from prosecutors, so the letter to the judge from prosecutors said that consistent with well-known practice in federal and state jails, many of the defendant's calls are recorded with notice of the recording provided to him and the person on the other side of any call. So their argument is everyone in prison has their phones monitored. That's not secret knowledge. And so therefore Karen should have known it was a recorded line. They are supposed to provide a separate private line for the attorney-client privilege. It's because it's not handled like your family coming in, somebody saying, hey, I'm going to bring you drugs on Tuesday. Make sure you're ready for this. It's not like that. This is an attorney-client privilege protection under our Constitution. Let's continue. The Metropolitan Detention Center where Mangione is being held sent records of calls between Mangione and his attorney to prosecutors because they were made on the recorded and monitored jail line and not the line specifically designated for attorney calls. So in other words, the prosecution is trying to blame Karen Agnifilo. You weren't using the proper lines. We're allowed to record all phone calls in prisons. So bad on you. You used the wrong phones. We're allowed to spy on your phone calls. It added that the phone number Agnifilo was using was not identified as belonging to counsel. So it's not a secured line. You didn't tell us it was your line. Your problem. This is where it gets super sticky. A paralegal at the district attorney's office who was reviewing the recordings encountered the call between Mangione and Agnifilo and recognized it as an attorney call, the letter said. The paralegal then immediately stopped listening and reported the issue to the prosecution team at DANY, that's their state, who promptly notified Ms. Agnifilo that one member of the prosecution team at the government, the letter added. So in other words, it's say, hey, look, a paralegal, that's all. A paralegal heard the phone call. Immediately when she found out what she was listening to, that it was an attorney-client privilege thing, she immediately stopped listening to the call and self-reported herself. No harm, no foul here. That's what was reported. I hope you understand that. Mainstream media, Newsweek magazine, or a website on the 30th. Right? Was that the 30th? April 30th. I think there's one more line I wanted to repeat to share. Nope, that was it. Okay, so bear with me. That was the first admission. Oh yeah, a paralegal listened to the phone call. She immediately dropped the call as soon as she realized it was attorney-client privilege, and we rectified the problem. Here you go. Next day, Luigi Mangione prosecutor recused from the case. What does recused mean? He's fired. Fired for prosecutorial misconduct, I believe. Now, some people will say, oh, well, he just decided to quit. That happens. Maybe his kid had a birthday coming up in the middle of the trial and he didn't want to get stuck in it, so he just stepped down. Technically, we weren't told what exactly happened. I'll show you what happened, in my opinion. The top federal prosecutor in Manhattan has been recused from Luigi Mangione's case. He's been fired or stepped down. He could have recused himself. It is unclear. Listen to this quote. The government also writes to inform the court that the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Jay Clayton, is recused from this matter. So basically, they're informing the judge, we've taken care of a problem. There's a conflict of interest of Jay Clayton or prosecutorial misconduct. He's done something wrong, or he's got a bias or something. He's been removed from office. He's no longer on the prosecution team. We've taken care of the problem. That's what they're basically saying in a letter to Judge Margaret Garnett. Now listen, the letter did not explain why Clayton is recused from the case, but said that Perry Carboni, the district's criminal division chief, will serve as the attorney for the United States case. Okay, so they informed the judge, here's who's replacing this guy that just got fired, stepped down for something. We'll explain why. Wednesday's letter, listen to this. Wednesday's letter also amended an earlier letter to Garnett. This is where you should freak the hell out. Wednesday's letter also amended an earlier letter to Garnett that described the handling of recorded jail calls between Mangione and his attorney Karen Agnifilo. The earlier letter had said that a paralegal at the New York County District Attorney's Office, DANY, had immediately stopped listening to the call after recognizing it was an attorney call. Instead, in fact, The paralegal listened to the entire call and then subsequently informed DANY prosecutors about the identities of the people whom the defendant spoke, Wednesday's letters said. So they basically said, we lied. The first time we told the judge, we said, hey, look, a paralegal did it. Soon as she or he, we don't know if it was a he or a she, as soon as they realized that they were listening to an attorney-client privilege call, they dropped the call, into story, taken care of. Now they amended the letter to the judge saying, in fact, the paralegal listened to the entire call and shared it with both the federal government and the state. DANY thereafter handled the matter as described in a previous letter. Moreover, DANY notified the defense counsel because they know they're in deep shit. So they have to notify Karen Agnifilo. Hey, by the way, we broke the law. We listened to your attorney-client privilege. It's coming out now. We have to admit it to the judge or asses are going to roll. It's going to be complete mistrial. Maybe we can get damage control going and we can fire the guy. We'll name one guy that's in charge and responsible. See, this is what's happening in my opinion. Now, this is I'm giving you an analysis. My opinion. They need a fall guy now because they broke the law, and they know they broke the law. They had to admit to the judge they broke the law. They're admitting to Karen Agnifilo they broke the law. But the answer is, hey, we already fired the guy. It's been taken care of. It's okay. We won't do that shit again. His bad, not ours, because we didn't do it. It's this guy. So that's what you got there. Let me show you something else. This is why I also believe this is the case. Here is the letter from Karen Agnifilo to Gregory Caro, the judge in the state case. And it's a simple letter. It's a real simple. It's a little one paragraph. Here it is, one paragraph on my screen, and an attachment, a big attachment. What is the attachment? The entire transcript from the federal hearing in front of Judge Margaret Garnett. Why? Because it shows on record, under oath, in the court, the prosecution saying, Your Honor, this is the first we've ever heard about this. Not true. So, because again, they notified Karen Agnifilo that day that they had done this misdeed. So it's not the first they've ever heard of it. So Karen was nice enough to provide them this letter, which is a full transcript. I've got purple. Again, if we don't have time tonight to cover the purple, I'll cover the purple and extended content later on. So the purple content is stuff I found interesting, including I'll give you a summary real quick. The judge basically asked, hey, look, I've got a personal relationship from working with Karen Agnifilo over the years, and I've got a personal relationship with Avi Moskowitz, another one of her attorneys, from working with him over the years. I've also got a personal relationship with this other person. Do either of you have a problem with that? Do you want me to recuse myself as a judge? Because the judge was willing to do that. Look, do you guys have a problem with the fact that I know Karen Agnifilo and I've worked with her before? And Karen said, I got no problem that we have a previous relationship. The prosecution said, I got no problem with, I told you I was going to cover that additional information. I'm telling you a little bit now. That'll be more that I'll cover on the extra bonus content if we get later. That's what's in those purple sections. So I have a lot of rant to give about that. It's just interesting stuff. What we're looking for is yellow, right? We're following the yellow topic. So let me scroll down here. Look at all that purple that I can talk about later. I'm going to run out of breath though. Here it is. Mrs. Friedman Agnifilo to Margaret Garnett on the stand. I do want to make one record, if that's okay with you, Your Honor, regarding the unprecedented dual prosecution, simultaneous dual prosecution of Mr. Mangione for the exact same offense. This is one of the arguments that Karen's going to bring up on that 57-page document we're going to get into next. Basically, she's saying it's double jeopardy. You're trying them twice for exactly the same offenses. That's the gist of that. We'll get to that in detail in a minute. It's created numerous logistic and constitutional issues. This is where the mistrial comes in. Constitutional violations. It has created numerous logistical and constitutional issues for us that, as I said, we'll be addressing in a future motion to you. That's the one that's the 57-page motion that we're going to read sections from tonight. But there is one thing I'd like to point out for the record, or put on the record. Here we go. Oh shit, hold on. We were just informed by the state court prosecutors that they were eavesdropping on all of Mr. Mangione's calls. They were listening to his attorney calls and his other calls that are going on, and they said that it was inadvertent that they listened to a call between Mr. Mangione and me, who I am lead counsel of record. And they know that, and obviously the United States knows that as well. So she's saying, look, they were eavesdropping on my private phone calls with my client. They know who I am. They know I'm his representative, and they continued to listen to the call. All of the calls. Not one call, not a paralegal heard a little bit of a call and dropped it. That's all bullshit. This is what she's saying in court. And they said that these calls, plural, were given to them. So that's the state. So the state prosecutors informed Karen Agnifilo. They're required to. Their ass is on the line. They need to let Karen Agnifilo immediately know when someone has broken the law. They have to, or it just gets worse for them. You need to admit your mistake early. So they told Karen Agnifilo coming into court, hey, look, by the way, we've apparently been eavesdropping on your phone calls. Our bad. Wanted to let you know before court. They said that these calls were given to them by the Southern District. So in other words, the federal government was eavesdropping on the calls and provided those phone calls to the state. So both prosecutions are working against Luigi Mangione to record secret attorney-client privileged phone calls and sharing them with each other. I don't know. I hope you understand what a major problem this is. This is why someone got fired. This is why somebody got recused, in my opinion. But I can't prove that. Maybe he just had a kid's birthday coming up and couldn't do the court. I bet you it's something else. So we just want to make sure that something is put in place, Your Honor, that does not, they say that they didn't, that only one person listened to it. So there's, again, they're saying only one paralegal listened to it, but it was multiple calls, but they're saying it's one paralegal. So let's make sure that never happens again. They took steps, she said, to minimize any encroachment into attorney-client relationships, and no one discussed this with another person who did listen, and that was inadvertent. Karen, by the way, in my opinion, is setting them up. She knows that's all a lie. She's repeating what she was told. By the way, they told me it was one person. That's all it was. It was complete accident. That's what they told me. So, Your Honor, just letting you know that that's what they told me. And then she's going to blow the lid off of it and be like, and all of that was bullshit. All right. But... sorry, I didn't mean to yell. But I'm still yelling. I'm excited. I'm got to calm this shit down. But we would just ask that the Southern District put something in place to ensure that no calls to his legal team and among the legal team are either recorded or listened to, certainly not provided to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office or the U.S. Attorney's Office. Okay. The court, now the judge, I would argue, I wasn't there, I didn't get to see it. There's no cameras in the court. I bet you she's a little perturbed. I've told you before. My opinion from reading about Judge Margaret Garnett is she is a stickler and she does not like prosecutorial misconduct. She does not like law enforcement conduct. She believes, like I do, that law enforcement should be held to a higher standard. So she says, Mr. Gentile, what can you tell me about this situation? Because now the judge is intrigued. You're listening to attorney-client privileges. What can you tell me about this situation, Mr. Gentile? So Mr. Gentile says, Your Honor, this is the very first that we've heard of this situation. That's horseshit, in my opinion. That's an opinion. That's horseshit. All right. Of course, that's not the normal practice for the U.S. Attorney's Office or any office. All jail calls are recorded, as the court knows, but we do not pull attorney-client calls, and we will look into it, and we will make sure to rectify it, Your Honor. Okay, the judge says. So I don't think the judge is done with this. I don't think the judge is done with this either, because here's what the judge does. I mean, recognizing that you've just heard of this situation, I'd like a letter from you, from the government, within 7 days of today, Friday, May 2nd. So that's the date I'm setting on this. I believe just updating the court in writing, she's asking, first, that Mr. Mangione is being afforded appropriate access to a line that is reserved for attorney calls. And my understanding is that the MDC still has such a line. Is that correct? Gentile says, I can't answer that, Your Honor. Okay, so he can't answer whether there's a line available for them. She continues on that he needs to, I can't answer that, Your Honor, or your arrangements for Mr. Mangione to be able to speak to his attorney without, I know those calls are typically recorded by the Bureau of Prisons, but to ensure that he has access to a line that is segregated from any calls that go to the government and the extent that there has been inadvertent production, what the U.S. Attorney's Office is doing to ensure that those calls have been segregated and aren't accessible to any member of the prosecution team. That's what the judge is asking him. I want you to invest. This is what I need to run this through the universal translator. I want you to investigate what the hell she just accused you of. Look into it, and I want you to put it in writing. Do an investigation. Who listened to what phone calls? She's not specifically stating, prove to me you haven't already broke the law, but she's also asking them to put in writing that you won't break the law going forward. That's my interpretation of this. Certainly, Judge. That's what the response is from Mr. Gentile. Then we see, after that, they come back with a response letter. Your Honor, turns out our paralegal listened to the entire phone call, not just a part of it. They didn't just hang up as soon as they realized it was an attorney-client privilege call. Then they shared it with the federal government, and they shared it with the state government. Oops, our bad. So And they have to, because it's going to come out anyways. So they have to admit that they did it. Now they're effed. That is a massive, massive problem. And it would be generally grounds for a mistrial, because now 2 different prosecutorial teams have heard potentially what the defense's strategy is. It's completely illegal. Luigi Mangione arguably cannot get a fair trial, because even if one person decides to take the fall for this and be the fall guy, I guarantee you that information is all over both legal offices. Both legal offices know exactly what happened on those phone calls. You can't take the cat and put it back in the bag, or whatever you want to say, whatever the euphemism is. You can't un-F yourself. You're effed. You can't un-F yourself. So they're toast, and they're trying to do damage control by firing the attorney or having him recuse himself and say, hey, it's just this one guy. He stepped down. He's been replaced. Won't happen again. But in my opinion, and I'm not an attorney, this is already grounds for mistrial. Will it be? No, I don't think. Only because the government's not playing fair in this case. They need Luigi Mangione to go down for this so bad, it probably doesn't matter how many illegal things happen. And that's my biased, jaded opinion. Thanks for the gifts, by the way. If you're excited about my rants, I love to know that I'm making a connection with somebody. All right, let's continue on. So we talked about the letter. Now let's talk about deny. Did I have the deny? We already covered the deny letter. I'm just skipping through, and we did the recuse thing. Okay, so again, and I think we understand it. I want to point out what is the possible punishment for a breach of attorney-client privilege. So again, this is a protected privilege under the 6th Amendment to have your attorney-client privilege to be a private conversation, and the prosecution can't eavesdrop on those phone calls and tip themselves off on what your defense is and be able to circumnavigate where you're going. Because again, the only way that would even be remotely fair is if Karen Agnifilo gets to have a wiretap inside the prosecutor's office and get to hear everything they're planning to do to Luigi Mangione and what their strategy is. You can't have one side having an unfair advantage. Already the government has an unfair advantage because they have resources beyond anything that the private sector can do. So they've already screwed this up 6 ways from Sunday. What are the possible punishments for a breach of attorney privilege, client privilege? Disbarment. Somebody could be disbarred and never be allowed to practice law again. So the person who recused themselves, depending on how severe it is and how blatant it was, could never practice law again. They could be disbarred. They could be suspended temporarily or censored. They could even have criminal charges put against them. They could serve jail time for breaching attorney-client privileges. They could have civil lawsuits brought against them, or it could end up and result in a complete mistrial or a case dismissal. Those are the options on the table for a breach of attorney-client privileges: disbarment, suspension, criminal charges, civil lawsuit, or complete mistrial, case dismissal. It's a lot on the line. And again, my cynical side will tell you the government's never going to let Luigi Mangione walk, no matter how illegal or how many constitutional laws were violated. That's my cynical opinion. But it already should be a mistrial if that's what happened. If they were listening to phone calls and sharing it, and both prosecution in the federal government and the state government are sharing client attorney privileged calls, already it's a mistrial. You can't uncluster F yourself. It's over, in my opinion. But it's not going to be, right? All right, let's get into the big document now. This is the 57-page document for the rest of the evening. All right? Now, I told you this was going to be a follow the color night. There's 3 colors you need to pay attention. We're done with yellow. Green, blue, and orange. Purple is all the extra stuff that we probably won't have time to get to tonight. And again, I'll probably make it available for members only if you want to subscribe to members only content, because it's probably going to be more than I can handle tonight. But let's get into the big ones. Green is going to be, I can't wait. I don't know why I'm excited. I'm giddy with excitement, and you're not going to feel as much joy as I'm going to feel out of this. This is the proof of what I've been telling people, and people have busted my balls all the time saying that I might be wrong about this. You can't provide false identification to a law enforcement officer. Yes, you can. I've read the law to you on many, many lives. Wait till you see what Karen points out. Not only does she reiterate that that's the truth, but an officer knows it damn well it's the truth. It is huge. That's going to be the green stuff. We're going to do that first. Then we're going to get into the illegal search and seizure, blue, and then we're going to get into double jeopardy issues, orange, and that's where we're probably going to end for the night. me take a break for a moment. Is there anything I need to pay attention to? My moderators who are in the room, is there anything that I need to, I'm going to take a moment before I start getting into all the details in this legal document. I'm just going to look to see if any of my moderators are in here and tell me we've got any kind of issues brewing. Just Curious says we're all good. Thank you so much. All right. All right, here's the deal. I think someone was asking me, what do I think is going to happen? I think they're going to proceed with the trial, even though they violated the law many, many times. I think they're going to proceed with the trial because the federal government's never going to let Luigi Mangione just walk out the door. They have too much at stake. So then the question is, how do we feel if they broke the law and the Constitution over and over again, if they did, and they still went through with it anyways? That's going to be horrible. I don't even know. I don't want to even get into that. Let's just focus on the green. This is about that big false identification, false arrest in the first place. The entire reason why they had probable cause to arrest Luigi Mangione was for providing false identification. I told you over and over, and I'll tell you again, it is not illegal in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to provide false identification to a police officer unless you have been informed, or until after you've been informed you are under investigation. You will see the moment that happens, and the officer who knows that's the law, because he will tell you in the frickin' transcripts we're going to read, now that you have been informed you're under investigation, are you still going to give us a false name? And he doesn't. They know that's the law in the Commonwealth. Oh my God, I'm so mad. Like, I hope you can feel my energy. I'm so pissed. I've been saying this is the case, and some people don't believe me. I'm so vindicated at the moment. I feel like, I told you that was the law. All right, green. Suppressing Mr. Mangione's statement to law enforcement as officers failed to... She's asking, Karen Agnifilo is asking for several things. She's asking to suppress his statements that were made to law enforcement as officers failed to provide him with his Miranda warning in violation of his Fifth Amendment rights. Yes, officers never read Luigi Mangione his Miranda rights until well after they decided they had probable cause to arrest him. And they continued to interrogate him illegally, in my opinion, and also, by the way, not just my opinion, also in Thomas Dickey, his attorney in Pennsylvania, and also in the mind of Karen Agnifilo, his lead prosecutor in New York. They all, I agree, and they agree, they have more cred than me, they all say it's illegal. It was illegal, folks. I can say that with a pretty good confidence. It's my opinion, but I'm not the only one who thinks that. His attorneys in 2 different states think it's illegal. Let's continue on. So let's scroll down faster. There's a big here index, blah, 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 blah. We're looking for green. Okay, this is an overview of the thing. As a result of an unprecedented prosecutorial one-upmanship, Mr. Mangione now faces 3 simultaneous prosecutions in 3 different jurisdictions, one of which is seeking the death penalty, while another is seeking life imprisonment, all for one set of facts. Yet, despite the gravest of consequences for Mr. Mangione, law enforcement has methodically and purposely trampled on his constitutional rights. This is huge. This is a constitutional issue. It is a mistrial 9 times out of 10, you would think. You'd think if you violate your constitutional rights, you're done. By interrogating him without Miranda warnings, he was not given his Miranda rights. Oh, everybody knows what your rights are. You don't need to be read Miranda rights. No, in this country, we still believe you need to have been told your rights. And guess what? When Luigi Mangione is told his Miranda rights and they ask him if he wants to keep talking, he shakes his head no. He's done talking. He stopped talking at the point that he was informed of his Miranda rights. Up to that point, he was interrogated illegally. That's what Karen believes. That's what Thomas Dickey believes. That's what I believe. That's what a whole bunch of people believe. But you can call me an idiot if you want, because I'm not an attorney. All right. So they did not read his random warnings in violation of the Fifth Amendment and illegally searched his property without a warrant in violation of the Fourth Amendment. That's the orange stuff. We'll get to that later. Let's continue looking for green. We're looking for green in this document. Oh, look. There's Luigi Mangione sitting in the corner of McDonald's. By the way, one of the prosecution's response, you probably heard me talk about this in a previous live, their response to why they didn't detain Luigi Mangione unlawfully was because he picked where to sit. So because he sat in the corner, it's his own damn fault he got pinned in the corner. It's not their fault. They didn't detain him. He picked this spot to sit. So therefore, it's his fault. You can't say they pinned him in the corner, even though you'll see on all the photos. Oh, shoot. Did I lose my feed? It looks like I'm still live, but my camera just told me it was overheating. I've never done a live apparently this long, but it looks like I'm still going on a camera. You guys can see me, right? Shit, hopefully the camera doesn't crap out and die. Just for a second it glitched. Okay, I'm good. Let's continue on while I still have heat under control. Patrolman Detweiler told Mr. Mangione that someone had called the police because they thought he was suspicious. That's the start of this. After Patrolman Detweiler asked to see Mr. Mangione's identification, Mr. Mangione is alleged to have provided a New Jersey license in the name of Mark Rosario. That is not illegal, folks. I've said it over and over again. That is not illegal. So Patrolman Detweiler asks to see his identification. He provides him, allegedly, the false identification of Mark Rosario. The patrolman asked Mr. Mangione if he was from New Jersey, because that's where the driver's license says he's from, and whether or not he'd been to New York recently. As Mr. Mangione prepared to eat his food, because he's going on with his breakfast, it says Patrolman Detweiler moved even closer to Mr. Mangione and asked him what he was doing in New York. Before Mr. Mangione even responded, Patrolman Detweiler asked him to stand up, put his hand on top of his head, with Detweiler grabbing and lifting Mr. Mangione's right wrist above his head. He's immediately already strong-arming Mr. Mangione, grabbing him by the wrist, flipping him around, sticking his hand on top of his head, going through the motions of an arrest. He has not been informed he's under arrest. He has not been read Miranda rights. He's already being strong-handled, and Karen knows this. She's got screenshots all through this document from the arrest. She's seen the body-worn footage. Trust me, when she's writing this is what happened, the judge is going to see it all as well. So, Patrolman Detweiler asks Mr. Mangione why he's so nervous as Detweiler frisks Mr. Mangione. Patrolman Detweiler, they're intimidating him. Why are you so nervous? Something you're hiding from us? Screw this arrest. This arrest is horrendous. Anyways, Patrolman Detweiler ordered Mr. Mangione to sit back down at the table and then directed Patrolman Fry to talk to Mr. Mangione, while Detweiler motioned for Fry to move even physically closer to Mangione to reinforce Mangione's inability to leave. This is again part of the argument. Detweiler asks Fry to stand closer to Luigi, pinning him in the corner so he can't leave while they go run his driver's license to see if it's illegal. It is not. Let me repeat this for the millionth time. It is not illegal in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to provide false identification to a police officer until after you've been informed you're under investigation. If you don't believe me, wait till we get to it. Patrolman Detweiler went outside to call another officer and tell them that he was 100% sure Mr. Mangione was the individual that law enforcement is looking for connected to the December 4th, 2024 shooting in New York. So where do we got this? This is important. The officers know he's the shooter. They know he's under investigation for the shooting. They have not told Mr. Mangione that they believe he's under investigation. They're intimidating with the, hey, what, were you in New York? What are you so nervous about? What's going on, Mr. Mangione? Well, Mr. Mark Rosario. All right, so Patrolman Detweiler went outside. Okay, so we covered that. Patrolman Detweiler returned to the back area of McDonald's to further interrogate Mr. Mangione and asked if he was from New Jersey, what he was doing in Altoona, and whether he had been to New York recently. So he's continuing, and this is what Karen's going to point out, he's continuing to try to get Luigi Mangione to implicate himself, to say something that's going to give them probable cause for the arrest. He's trying to get him to implicate himself. So he's asking him questions. Police cannot try to implicate you and get you to commit some kind of thing that they can get probable cause on, but that's exactly what Detweiler is doing. What were you doing in Altoona? What are you doing in Altoona? Why were you in New York recently? Even though Patrolman Detweiler had already decided that Mr. Mangione was the New York shooter, he told Mr. Mangione, as a pretext for police interaction, that they were there because Mangione had been at the McDonald's for 40 minutes. So he's telling Mangione, hey, we're just checking up on you because you look suspicious. You've been here for too long. That's why we're talking to you, not because we believe you're the shooter. So we know for a fact that Detweiler thinks he is the shooter, but he's telling him, we're only here because you look suspicious and you've been here for 40 minutes. They're lying to him and trying to get him to implicate himself. All of this is illegal. Karen knows it. Thomas Dickey knows it. I know it. Now you know it. Let's continue on. Patrolman Fry remained in a strategic position, blocking Mr. Mangione's exit as Detweiler continued to interrogate Mangione. There's a picture of Fry, apparently, blocking Mangione while they're continuing to do their investigation, look into his false driver's license and all that stuff. There's more officers now pinning him in the corner. It's almost like you're looking for a photo op. Look at that. Hey, standing there proud. Look at us. We got Mangione in the corner. All right. 9:46 a.m. With 8 officers now on scene, another officer asked Patrolman Detweiler, this is where it gets shit. This is going to be, my live's going to end if I don't verify who I am. I need 2 shapes that look alike. Where are they? You got to actually give me 2 shapes to look alike. All right. Are we still live? Did you glitch up? This is where it's going to get exciting, folks. For me. It's for me. This is all me. You're going to share in my moment of joy. This is my moment of joy. At 9:46, with 8 officers now in the scene, another officer asked Patrolman Detweiler if he had read Mangione his rights as required by the Supreme Court's ruling in Miranda versus Arizona, and it states the law. When Patrolman Detweiler responded that he had not read Mangione his rights, the officer told Detweiler to tell Mr. Mangione that he was under official police investigation and to read Mangione his rights. So another officer who knows the frickin' law in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is telling this officer, oh my God, you haven't read him his rights yet? Tell him, 1, he's under investigation, because you can't commit the crime of providing false information to an officer until you've been told you're under investigation. This is the moment after they've been interrogating him for some time now where an officer says, did you tell him he was under investigation? No? Then read him his frickin' Miranda rights and tell him he's under investigation before you keep running your frickin' mouth. That's my interpretation. All right? I think Karen sees it the same way. All right, so let's read that sentence over again. I'm too excited. Mangione, when Patrolman Detweiler responded that he had not, the officer told Detweiler to tell Mangione that he was under official police investigation. That's important according to the law. And to read Mangione his rights. Patrolman Detweiler informed Mangione that he was now under official police investigation. There's the moment. They know that's the law. They have to inform him he's under investigation before he can commit a crime of false identification. Now he's been informed. And then they continue. Listen to this sentence. I'm so excited about this sentence. Oh my God. Patrolman Detweiler informed Mr. Mangione that he was under official police investigation and that he would be arrested for false ID if he gave the police the false name again. Holy shit. Do you understand what's being said? Everything I've been telling you for weeks on the live is right there. It is not against the law in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to provide false identification to a police officer until you've been told that you're under investigation. There the officer says, now that you have been told you are under investigation, do you want to give us the false name of Mark Rosario again? Guess what? Luigi never mentions the false name again. He never committed a crime. They illegally arrested his ass for false identification when they know it's the law. This officer knows it's the law. He specifically says, now that you've been told you're under investigation, do you want to give us that false name again? Nope. I'm Luigi Mangione. They're screwed. At least they should be. They're screwed in that arrest. That is thank God that you guys are seeing it. I see from the comments in the chat room that you are understanding what I'm saying. That is an illegal arrest. And the officer, this superior officer, who apparently has been on the force longer, knows Pennsylvania law. He knows they have screwed up royally. They are illegally detaining this man. They're screwed. He knows it. Now that you have been informed, you're under investigation. Do you still want to give us a false name? No. Everything prior to that is bullshit. Sorry, I'm so excited. Whew, I'm on fire tonight. Am I going to get through even the other points? Let's continue on with green. Still without reading Mr. Mangione his Miranda rights, Patrolman Detweiler... Still without reading Mangione his Miranda rights. He still is not going to read him his rights. Patrolman Detweiler continues interrogating Mr. Mangione by asking him if his name is Mark Rosario, to which Mangione responded, no. Why is Mark Rosario saying no? Because he's just been informed. Now that you've been informed you're under investigation, do you want to give us that name? Because if you do, you're under arrest. Nope. But Detweiler won't let it go. You're Mark Rosario, right? No. I'm telling you. I've been telling you this for fucking... I'm sorry. I've been telling you for this for weeks. I'm so... If this holds up, if this arrest holds up, I don't even know what to think. That's illegal. That's an illegal arrest. And the whole thing should be tossed. And maybe a mistrial. But that's my personal opinion. Okay, let's continue on. If we have battery power, if the camera doesn't overheat. He asks him if he still wants to say that he's Mark Rosario. He says no. Patrolman Detweiler asks Mr. Mangione for his real name and his date of birth, to which Mangione provided. So now Luigi Mangione, once he's been told if you keep giving us a false name from this point forward, you're under arrest, he says, nope, my name's Luigi Mangione, here's my date of birth. He's telling him everything because now he's under obligation according to Pennsylvania state law. I don't know. Did Luigi Mangione know the law? Did Luigi Mangione know that he was waiting for them to tell him he's under an investigation before giving them all the deets? It sounds like he knows that. Or maybe he just got freaking lucky. I don't know. But it seems to me like Luigi Mangione knows the law. All right. And listen to this. Another officer at the scene asked Mangione twice why he lied about his name. At this time, there were 9 officers surrounding Mangione. Let me explain to you why that's a problem. He still has not been read his Miranda rights. That's the start of this paragraph. Without reading Mangione his rights, they now know that he's got a fake ID, and they're asking him to self-incriminate himself. Still, why'd you lie about your name then? If you're not Luigi Mangione, or if you're not Mark Rosario, why'd you lie about the thing? They're screwed, people. They are screwed. At 9:48 a.m., nearly 20 minutes after law enforcement first approached Mr. Mangione, prevented him from leaving, and asked him numerous interrogation questions, Patrolman Stephen Fox finally reads Mr. Mangione his Miranda warning. Because apparently Detweiler's never going to read him his rights. Some other officer has to step, this is me, I'm reading between the lines, some other officer has to save Detweiler from himself. Like, Jesus, man, you're not going to read him his Miranda rights? I'm going to read him his rights. So another officer steps in, Stephen Fox, because he knows they're screwed. That's my opinion. He knows they're screwed. They've already violated his constitutional rights. They've already made a false arrest. So now he's going to, like, if you're not going to read him his rights, I'm going to read him his rights, because we're effed at this point. And I hope we never have to turn over the body cam footage, because we're screwed if we do. Again, I'm reading a lot into that, so bear with me. This is an analysis thing. I'm giving you my opinion. After informing Mr. Mangione of his constitutionally protected right to remain silent, Patrolman Fox asks Mr. Mangione if he wanted to talk to law enforcement. Mr. Mangione exercised his constitutional right to remain silent and expressed that he did not want to speak to law enforcement. You know how he did it? By shaking his head no. Luigi stopped talking at the moment he was told, "You have the right to remain silent." Patrolman Fox knows they're screwed, in my opinion. He read him his rights and said, "Now, do you want to keep talking?" He's done. He's done. Did he know the law? I don't know. Okay, so then Patrolman Fox tells Mr. Mangione that he was not in custody at this point. This is important. Again, I suspect that Patrolman Fox knows they're screwed. He's a seasoned vet. He knows they're screwed. So now he wants to reiterate to Mr. Mangione, hey, you've never been under detention. You're not in custody. He's backpedaling because he knows they're screwed. He knows it. You're not under custody. I just want to make it clear you're not under custody, as if to suggest this entire time you could have left if you wanted to. We're just going to make it clear for the record you're not in custody at this point. Despite the fact, Karen continues, that at this moment there were 10 officers in the back of the McDonald's where Mangione was sitting, and they had already decided with 100% certainty that he was the shooter, and he was clearly in custody and not free to leave. Patrolman Fox then asks Mr. Mangione why he had a fake ID. And that's okay, because now he's read him his Miranda rights, he's informed him he's under investigation, and now he can question him about the fake ID. Mangione never fesses up to the fake ID ever again, because it wasn't illegal until that point. Mr. Mangione did not answer, remaining silent when he's informed of his right to remain silent. All right, Patrolman Fox ordered Mr. Mangione to stand and put his hands on the wall so Fox could pat him down, to which Mangione complied in all respects with the directives. He's not fighting the cops, he's not running, he's not doing anything, he's obeying all the compliant requests, and he's getting arrested. At 9:50 a.m., approximately 90 seconds after telling Mangione that he was not in custody, despite being surrounded by officers, and after he had been patted down twice, Patrolman Fox handcuffed Mr. Mangione and thoroughly searched him again. Mr. Mangione remained standing, handcuffed, and surrounded by officers as they waited for verification of his identification. They're running his fake ID. By the way, has he committed a crime by providing false identification before he was identified as being under investigation? That's the million-dollar question. Can you answer that one yet? All right. Here's a bunch of the cops. Look at that shit. There's Mangione facing the wall, hands behind his back, handcuffed. By the way, behind the wall of officers, you'll see on the back table, I believe, is his backpack. That's going to come up in the next section, and I honestly don't know if we have time to cover this tonight. I apparently have so much. I'm so on fire with my anger and my righteous indignation about the violations of constitutional rights that I don't know if I can get through this. At 9:54 a.m., Patrolman Detweiler walked out of the McDonald's to discuss Mangione's identification with another officer. Listen to this. During this conversation and without any explanation, Patrolman Detweiler covers his body-worn camera with his hand to prevent the camera from recording 20 seconds of his conversation. Oh my gosh, dude. Literally. He covers up the body-worn camera microphone so he can say something off camera where nobody can hear what's being said. What the hell are we doing here? All right, there's some more of the activity in the McDonald's. Luigi Mangione in custody. All right. Mr. Mangione was formally arrested and charged in Altoona with forgery, possession of a weapon, and tampering with weapons, tampering with records of identification, possession of an instrument of a crime, and for possessing a silencer and furnishing false identification to law enforcement. He did not commit the crime and the whole thing stems from providing false identification to law enforcement. I hope that you've got your education tonight and on our previous lives. Luigi Mangione did not commit a crime by providing false identification to a law officer, despite what Pennsylvania wants to say. And an officer on scene clearly knows that. New York law is clear. A defendant's statements obtained through custodial interrogation without Miranda warnings should be suppressed. This is what Karen's further saying. The New York law is clear. If a defendant is detained and you're interrogating him and you haven't read his Miranda rights, everything he says goes out the window, including the false identification bullshit. I'm reading because Karen never said the false identification bullshit. That's my word, in case you were unclear. In assessing the admissibility of the Miranda-less statements, courts must determine 1, whether the police questioning constituted an interrogation, and 2, whether the defendant was in custody. And then she cites an example of a law in which they talk about this. Miranda warnings must be administered when an interrogation occurs after a person has been taken into custody or otherwise deprived of his freedom or action in any significant way. What Karen is stating is law states, if you have detained my guy, you told an officer to stand closer to him and pin him in the corner so that he can't leave, you have detained him in a significant way. He is under detention and you haven't read him his rights. You have violated the law and his constitutional rights. For Miranda purposes, I'm still on the green. For frick's sake, we're an hour in and I'm still on the green. For Miranda purposes, interrogation refers to any questioning or actions by law enforcement officers that are reasonably likely to elicit an incriminating response from a suspect. Was Detweiler doing that? What are you doing? Where have you been in New York? Why are you so nervous? Why are you telling us lies? Yes, he's being interrogated and being trying to be elicited to give incriminating responses by law enforcement officers on scene. The term interrogation under Miranda refers not only to express questioning, but also to any words or actions on the part of police, other than those normally attended to the arrest and custody, that the police should know are reasonably likely to elicit an incriminating response. The officer's trying to get Mangione to admit he's the shooter from New York. That's why he's asking me, what were you doing in New York? Why are you giving us a false name? Been to New York recently? What are you doing in Altoona? He's trying to get Luigi Mangione to fess up that he was the shooter in New York. That's illegal. He's trying to entice him in to a confession before reading his Miranda rights. I'm still on green and I'm still freaked out and I still can't finish my vanilla soda. In this case, when Patrolman Detweiler initially approached Mr. Mangione, he already believed that he was the New York shooter. We already covered that. When asking Mr. Mangione if he had been to New York recently, Patrolman Detweiler was seeking to elicit an incriminating response. This is exactly what I just said. This question was obviously important enough that Patrolman Detweiler asked it numerous times, including after telling another officer that he was 100% sure Mr. Mangione matched the New York suspect. So he knows who he's trying to get Luigi to confess he's the shooter in New York, without having read him his rights and without telling him he's under investigation for such a thing. I'm glad you got wine. You're going to be hammered before we get done with this. All right. In asking the question, Patrolman Detweiler knew, this is Karen's words, in asking this question, Patrolman Detweiler knew it was likely to elicit an incriminating response because there was nothing about their interaction or being in McDonald's that related to New York other than the shooting. In other words, they're telling him he's there because he stayed too long at McDonald's. So what's that have to do with why were you in New York? What have you been doing in New York? Why are you in Altoona? When were you in New York? Why are you so nervous? They were trying to entice him to admit that he was the shooter in New York. The standard for when someone is considered in custody is met here as well. The standard for assessing a suspect's custodial status is whether it's a reasonable person, innocent of any wrongdoing, would have believed that he was free to leave. Do you believe Mangione or anyone in that condition with 8 officers surrounding you in the corner is under the assumption that they're free to leave as they're holding your ID? No reasonable person, and no judge should be able to be bamboozled into saying that reasonably Luigi Mangione should have known he was free to leave. Shame on any judge that says that, in my opinion. Here, there can be no doubt Mr. Mangione was in custody when he was interrogated by the police. In addition, Before walking out of the McDonald's, Patrolman Detweiler made certain to position Mr. Fry closer to Mangione. We covered that, to prevent his exit. Patrolman Detweiler also directed other armed officers where to stand in order to limit Mr. Mangione's movements. Detweiler is conducting everyone how to pin him in the corner. It's on camera, folks. The judge is going to be able to see it for themselves, herself, because this is going to Margaret Garnett, I believe. From the time they first approached Mr. Mangione, the officers intentionally placed themselves in such a way to ensure that Mr. Mangione could not leave. By intentionally blocking Mr. Mangione's ability to move past them, the patrolman had made it clear to Mr. Mangione or anyone else in his position that he was not free to leave. Mr. Mangione's inability to leave was made clear, even more clear, when additional armed officers entered McDonald's and positioned themselves to prevent him from leaving. Despite Mr. Mangione's inability to leave, Mr. Detweiler continued to question Mangione without Miranda warnings, even after another officer instructed Patrolman Detweiler to inform Mangione that he was under official police investigation and to read him his rights. Oh my effing, come on, man. Detweiler continues to interrogate him even after another officer says, for God's sake, man, tell him he's under investigation and read him his rights. You are screwing this up. This whole thing is going to get tossed. Moments later, another officer asks Mangione twice why he lied about his name, all while being surrounded by 9 officers blocking Mr. Mangione from exiting the McDonald's. Because law enforcement has violated Mangione's Fifth Amendment rights while he's in custody, counsel moves to suppress all statements Mr. Mangione made to law enforcement between December 9th and December 19th. So from the point of his arrest on to the 19th, they're saying anything he told you in custody at that point is all illegal. Because he never should have been arrested, and once you got him arrested, you started putting the screws to him and trying to get him to confess to other things. All that shit's out the window. The arrest was illegal in the first place. This court should conduct a hearing pursuant to the People versus Huntley to determine whether law enforcement obtained Mr. Mangione's statements in violation of his Fifth Amendment rights. Yes, they did. In my humble opinion, I'm not an attorney. They violated his Fifth Amendment rights. Are we done with green? I think we're done with green. I hope some of you who might be in here questioning whether or not I was right about whether a person in Pennsylvania has to been informed they're under investigation. I hope you saw it. I hope you saw it for yourself. There was a senior officer on site who knew they screwed that up. Knew it and said, you haven't told him he's under investigation? Furthermore, he tells Mangione, now that you have been informed you're under investigation, do you want to continue to give us the false name? He did not. There's nothing wrong there. All right. I'm exhausted, but the camera hasn't completely overheated. Or has it? Uh-oh. I'm frozen. The camera's frozen, isn't it, people? Do you see any movement? I think my camera just froze. Yeah. How long ago did it overheat? My camera just overheated. Oh my goodness. All right. It's been frozen for a while. So you've got audio. The audio's not going away. I'm going to kill the camera feed because it's not any good anyways. It's going to let my camera cool down. I'm using a very high-end camera that's really designed for photography, not for hours of video footage. And now I just ran into the problem. I'm going to have to find a way to keep that camera cool because it just freaked out being used that hot. My room is hot. I'm sweating. YouTube's frozen. Is YouTube frozen? Or if I scroll on YouTube, can you see the text scrolling and hear my voice? If you do, all that really has died is the video feed of my mug. So you get a frozen feed of me looking indignant on the screen. And that'll stay for the rest of the time. Now the question becomes, do I end here early tonight? Or do I just give you audio at this point? Just video of a face. Yeah, that's not a pretty face. You poor bastards. All right. So we got audio only. I think you've got video as far as the screen and the text scrolling. I think you still have that both on TikTok and on the others. So let's go ahead and try to do a little bit more while I still have breath in my body. Illegal search and seizure. Karen also moves to suppress the illegal search and seizure. Suppressing the evidence seized at this time of his arrest because law enforcement conducted a warrantless search of Mangione's backpack in violation of his Fourth Amendment rights after he was already handcuffed and surrounded by 10 officers. This gets horrendous. Oh my gosh, I'm going to blow a blood vessel. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have an aneurysm. All right, let's continue, because I don't, again, what makes me so frustrated is I don't think it matters how many violations of the law they make. They're going to continue to proceed to try to prosecute this case. It means too much to the government, despite the fact that anybody that probably has a law degree can see that there's a problem with this, and an officer on scene knows there's a problem. Let's get into illegal search and seizure. At 9:41 a.m., 12 minutes after they first approached Mr. Mangione, Patrolman Detweiler moved the backpack from the floor where Patrolman Fry had been blocking Mr. Mangione's path to an area far out of Mangione's reach. This is super important, folks. Mangione is handcuffed, first of all, at some point, and he can't get into his backpack. And they also move his backpack physically away from his body, so he can't get into his backpack. In the meantime, 5 additional uniformed and armed officers entered the back of the area of McDonald's where Mangione was detained and in custody. And again, there's photos. We're going to look for blue. We're just looking for blue now. At 9:58 a.m., several officers, are we centered okay on TikTok? Looks like we are. At 9:58 a.m., several officers began searching through Mr. Mangione's jacket and pockets and frisked him again. At the same time, Patrolwoman Christy Wasser and Patrolman Fox began searching through the backpack. Now, here's what kills me. Patrolman Fox knows better, I think, because Patrolman Fox already knew it was against the law for them to have tried to get him on the false identification before informing him he was under investigation. That's what Patrolman Fox knows. But now Christy Wasser and Patrolman Fox are both searching Luigi's backpack that had been placed on a table out of Luigi Mangione's reach for more than 17 minutes. This is critical. Pay attention. This is critical. They're going to try to argue that Luigi Mangione could have gone for a gun. How is he going to go for the gun when he's got 10 officers between him and his backpack that's freaking, has been out of his reach for 17 minutes? There's no way Luigi could have gone for a gun. But they're going to say that there was a bomb. He could have had a bomb. They're going to use that because they realize, wait till you see it. When Karen Agnifilo says the officer realized she had just made a colossal mistake. Wait, it's amazing. It's amazing if you believe in upholding the law, right? All right. As part of the warrantless search, Patrolman Wasser opened Mr. Mangione's backpack and fully searched the backpack, its components, and its contents, including closed bags that were within the backpack, while Mangione stood handcuffed. So Mangione can't go for a gun in the backpack if you're in handcuffs. She's searching his backpack while he's in handcuffs, surrounded by officers who are positioned between Mr. Mangione and his backpack. There's a picture of him in handcuffs, standing there. As the officers in the back corner, you can see the blonde, I believe, woman who's going to be Wasser, the Patrolman Wasser. And it looks like this is probably Fox then, because Fox and Wasser, they said, are searching his bag. There they are in the back corner. I'm only pointing it out to you because I didn't pay attention to it before, but that must be Patrolwoman Wasser. As part of the warrantless search, Patrolman Fox retrieved a small item from inside the backpack that was enclosed in cardboard and wrapped in tape. Patrolman Fox then took out his knife and sliced open the tape to find a computer chip inside. What the hell are you doing, Patrolman Fox? You know the law well enough to know that you couldn't arrest him for that false ID. You told another officer, what the hell are you doing? Read him his freaking Miranda rights, and now you're going to illegally search and seize his documents? Like, what part does he know about the law? What part does he not know about the law? This is illegal. In my opinion. I'm not an attorney and I'm not a law enforcement officer. It's my opinion. But I'm also not an idiot. All right. During this continued search at McDonald's, Patrolwoman Wasser recovered a gun magazine loaded with bullets. Listen to how Karen words this. Now realizing that she had made a potentially devastating mistake by thoroughly searching the backpack of a murder suspect in a significant New York press case without a warrant, she suddenly stated that she was searching through the backpack at McDonald's to make sure there wasn't a bomb or anything in here before putting the backpack in her car. Now that's Karen Agnifilo's statement. She knows law enforcement. She knows what just happened. This patrolwoman finds a clip, realizes, holy shit, this is it. We've got him. And it's warrantless. She knows they're in trouble because they want to get a warrant and obtain that legally, or it's not going to come into court, folks. She needs to have a warrant so that it can come into court. She realizes at this point she screwed up, and she's like, and as Karen says, realizing her colossal or her devastating mistake, she's like, oh shit, I gotta have an excuse for searching his bag. There might have been a bomb in his bag. Really? Why didn't you clear the McDonald's? You're gonna let everybody stand around when you think there's a bomb in there? You let all the officers surround a bomb in that thing? You really think there's a bomb in there? That's the story you're gonna go with? You want us all to believe that you think there's a bomb while the whole McDonald's is packed full of your officers? It makes no sense. And Karen calls them on that. That makes no sense. There's a comedian. That makes no fucking sense. All right. The falsity of that comment was made clear seconds later when another officer at McDonald's stated, "Now that we have found that," and she says, i.e. the loaded gun, "let's just bring it back to the precinct." Suddenly not concerned about a bomb, Patrolman Wasser places all the items back into the back and stops searching. Oh, I'm sorry. So you're afraid there's a bomb in the bag, but you don't continue to search the bag for that bomb? And also you're not concerned the bomb's going to go off as you repack the bag? And also you're not concerned about the bomb as you carry that bomb-laden bag back to your patrol car to take it back to the precinct so that you can obtain a search warrant and legally search what you've already illegally searched? Am I making myself clear? This is illegal. All of this is illegal. I'm gonna blow a gasket. All right. So he says, let's bring it back to the precinct. Patrolman Wasser then placed the items back in the backpack and stopped searching. Patrolwoman Wasser repeated her comment. She's wanting to make sure people hear this, making sure that there was no bombs in the backpack. I was just making sure there's no bombs in the backpack. As another officer comments, at this point, we probably need a search warrant. Really? Good for you. At this point, you think maybe you need a search warrant. They knew they needed a search warrant. They made a colossal mistake, a devastating mistake, as Karen said. They realized they fucked up. And they're like, we probably need a warrant to look through that bag. Yeah, no shit. You probably do. Somebody should probably go to jail. All right. Patrolman Wasser leaves McDonald's at 10:04 a.m. There is no body-worn camera footage for her for the next 11 minutes. What the hell are you guys doing, officers? You're going to go off camera for 11 minutes with his backpack off camera as you're doing an illegal search and seizure and you're doing an illegal arrest. You're going to cover, one officer is going to cover his microphone so that you can't hear what he says for 20-something seconds, and another officer is going to make sure that her camera's not on when she's taking the critical evidence to the police station. I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to lose my mind. At 10:16 a.m., 1 minute after arriving at the precinct, Patrolwoman Wasser continued her warrantless search of the backpack. This is Karen's words. It's my words, too. That is a warrantless search. Woman Wasser first reopened the same backpack compartment that she had started searching at McDonald's before immediately closing that compartment and opening the front compartment of the backpack as if she were specifically looking for something. Instantly, she found the handgun in the front compartment. That wording by Karen is suggesting planted evidence. She's not saying it, but she's suggesting planted evidence. When the officer comes back, she suddenly knows right where to go to find the gun. Oh, look, I found the gun! Really? Because you were off camera for 11 minutes. So no wonder you found the gun. Maybe, or should we just give the officers the benefit of the doubt? I mean, because they've done everything else completely by the book up to this point, right? So we should probably just give her the benefit of the doubt. She just happened to find, she knew exactly where to look next to get the gun immediately. After finding the gun at the precinct, Patrolwoman Wasser again explained to another officer that she quickly searched the bag at McDonald's to make sure there was no bombs or anything. Patrolwoman Wasser did not explain why she didn't seek a warrant once she arrived at the precinct. Oh my God! An officer tells what is wrong with these people? An officer tells her, we probably need a warrant to search that bag. And she comes back and goes, I'm going to continue my search without that warrant. Hey, look, I found a gun. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be Cop of the Year award. Found the gun. Didn't you just get reminded you need a search warrant for that shit? I think I'm pretty sure that if I had my watch on right now, I'd be having a high blood pressure warning. Like, calm down, dude. Let me see if we can get through blue. Hold on. After finding the gun at the precinct, Patrolwoman Wasser again explains to another officer that she quickly searched the bag to make sure there were no bombs. She did not explain why she wasn't seeking a warrant. We covered that. Sorry, I repeated that again. I've lost my mind. Patrolwoman Wasser continues to search the backpack in the precinct without a warrant and recovered a silencer, a red notebook containing Mr. Mangione's personal writings, additional writings, a computer chip, an iPhone, and several USB flash drives without a warrant. Over 7 hours after the warrantless search of Mr. Mangione's backpack, the Altoona Police Department finally sought a search warrant at 5:14 p.m. This warrant application sought permission. Hey, can we have permission to search Mr. Mangione's backpack? We think there might be something in it that's really important. Judge, we think there might be something in this bag. I'm not sure how we know that, but we think there might be something. So can we get a judge to sign off on giving us a search warrant for that bag? Good for you. This warrant application sought permission to search and seize items from Mr. Mangione's backpack that law enforcement had already searched several times earlier that morning. I'm losing it. I'm losing it, folks. I'm losing it. All right, we're going to blue. Let's continue on blue. Blue. The Fourth Amendment protects individuals from unreasonable search and seizures by the government. U.S. Constitution Amendment number 4, building on the Fourth Amendment's protections, the New York Court of Appeals has ruled that all warrantless searches presumptively are unreasonable per se, and thus, where a warrant has not been obtained, it is people who have the burden of overcoming the presumption of unreasonableness. In other words, you had no reason to search his belongings. It's an unreasonable search and seizure. That is against the United States Constitution. It's one of the big ones. While the New York courts have accepted a search conducted by law enforcement incident to a lawful arrest as an exception to a warrant requirement, the prosecutors must first satisfy two requirements. The first imposes spatial temporal limitations to ensure that the search is not significantly divorced in time or place from the arrest. And the second, so what that means is you can't take the backpack out of the room where you're searching it and then search it later. You have to search it on the premises where it happened. And the second, equally important, predicate requires the people to demonstrate the presence of exigent circumstances. Let me break this through the universal translator. You need to prove that you were afraid that the person who owned the backpack was going to go for a gun or could have a gun or have a weapon. If you've got him handcuffed with his hands behind his back facing a wall and you're searching his belonging 7-8 feet away, surrounded in between him by officers, you can't say that he might have gone for a weapon. That's asinine, and any reasonable person could know that's asinine. When addressing the exigency requirement for a warrantless search incident to a lawful arrest of property within the defendant's immediate control or grabbable area, I'm doing air quotes for you. You can't see me air quotes. I'm doing air quotes for you. I'm making great faces. I'm losing my mind and you're missing it all because I have no camera feed. Holy shit. Anyways, air quotes. These are actually quoted in the document in quotes. That's why I'm doing quotes that you can't see me doing. It has to be within immediate control of the defendant. Luigi Mangione is got his hands cuffed behind his back and about 8 feet away. So is he in immediate control of his possessions? Or it has to be within a grabbable area. Can Luigi Mangione reach behind himself, handcuffed, 8 feet back like frickin' Stretch Armstrong and grab the backpack and get that gun out? No! No, he's not in reason. No, I shouldn't have to explain that. A bag that is within immediate control or grabbable area of a suspect at the time of his arrest may not be subject to a warrantless search incident to arrest unless the circumstances leading to the arrest support a reasonable belief that the suspect may gain possession of a weapon or be able to destroy evidence. So Karen's saying, your shit is bullshit. You can't say you were afraid Luigi's going for a gun or that he's got a bomb or he's going to destroy evidence because he's handcuffed 8 feet away from his backpack. I'm glad somebody enjoyed my Stretch Armstrong comment. Similarly, even a bag within the immediate control or grabbable area of a suspect at the time of arrest may not be subject to a warrantless search incident to arrest unless the circumstances leading up to the arrest support a reasonable belief that the suspect may gain possession of a weapon or destroy evidence located in the bag. So again, even if Mangione's backpack was on the floor within reach of his hands and he wasn't handcuffed with his hands behind his back, you still can't warrantly search his shit unless you have a reasonable suspicion he's going for a weapon. Mangione has never threatened the cops. He's never done anything but comply with every single thing they told him to do. Nobody was afraid in that office, in that McDonald's, of him going for a weapon. Although at the time of the search the bag was on the floor within grabbable reach of the defendant, he was standing with his arms handcuffed behind his back. Those circumstances do not support a reasonable belief that the defendant could have either gained possession of the weapon or destroyed evidence in the bag. No shit. So that was at the point, she says, when the bag was close to him. There was a point when the bag was way away from him as well. There can be no disagreement that at the time that the law enforcement started searching Mangione's backpack, he was in handcuffs, surrounded by police officers, while the bag was approximately 6 feet away from him. Moreover, Even before Mr. Mangione's arrest, the backpack was not within immediate control or grabbable area because Patrolman Detweiler had quickly moved to another table. It moved it to another table approximately 6 feet away, roughly 9 minutes earlier, and there was a human wall of police officers strategically standing between Mangione and the backpack. I feel like I don't have to repeat every single thing that Karen is saying, but I want to make sure you get the point. That's a warrantless search. She knows it's a warrantless search. So now they've got an illegal arrest and an unwarranted search and seizure. Everything's illegal. Everything they're doing right now is illegal. In my opinion, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an attorney. I'm not law enforcement. Nevertheless, despite the lack of any exigency, officers began searching through his backpack while inside McDonald's. There was certainly no exigency once Mr. Mangione was removed from McDonald's, yet law enforcement continued to search the backpack at the restaurant without a warrant. Under New York law, this search was illegal and the contents of the backpack must be suppressed. Yeah, true. The fact that they believed Mr. Mangione was the person wanted for murder does not change the analysis nor provide necessary exigency to overcome this fatal police error. This is a fatal police error. First, the shooting happened 5 days earlier. The police had no reason to believe that the alleged shooter was still armed. Second, even if the police had reason to believe that he may be armed, any exigency disappeared after Patrolman Detweiler frisked Mr. Mangione for weapons, moved his bag 6 feet away, and then armed officers strategically placed themselves between Mangione and his backpack. I'm losing my shit. Okay, hold on. Apparently, I have to keep reminding TikTok that I'm allowed to go. How have I made it? How have I made it an hour and 21 minutes and not getting kicked off the platform? All right, let's keep going. Secondly, even if the police had reason to believe that he may be armed, okay, we covered that. Why did they frisk him? Why did they separate him from his bag? Blah, 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 blah. Furthermore, there certainly was no exigency once Mr. Mangione was removed from McDonald's or once Patrolman Wasser brought the backpack to the precinct. By continuing to search the backpack even outside of Mangione's presence, the police underscored that the search had nothing to do with exigency and was simply searching for incriminating evidence. They're digging for something to arrest him on. While patrolwoman Wasser claimed that she was searching the backpack to make sure there was no bombs inside, this post hoc excuse did not reflect any legitimate exigency. First, nothing about the alleged shooting in New York or law enforcement's interaction with Mr. Mangione in the McDonald's provided reasonable basis to believe that there was a bomb in the backpack. Secondly, the patrolwoman did not make this claim until after she had already been searching through his backpack and after she recovered a loaded magazine. Tellingly, she stopped searching the bag at the McDonald's once she recovered the loaded magazine. If one were legitimately concerned about a bomb, one would have either continued searching right then and there or cleared the McDonald's and had called in and waited for the bomb squad to arrive before searching the bag, neither of which occurred. God, that's like, it makes logical sense. Does that not make logical sense? If you're going to claim you think there's a bomb, why are you letting everybody stand around? Why are you continuing to search? Certainly, one could not have continued searching the bag at McDonald's filled with officers, employees, and customers, or put the bag in their car to transport the potential bomb to the precinct. Third, that an officer sliced open a taped-up cardboard container too small to house a bomb is further evidence that this was a warrantless search for evidence rather than a legitimate concern about a bomb. I don't even know why we're still here, other than the federal government will not let Luigi Mangione go. They're not going to let him walk no matter how many laws are broken, in my opinion. All the circumstances demonstrate that patrolwoman Wasser did not search the bag because she thought that there might be a bomb, but rather this was an excuse designed to cover up an illegal and warrantless search of the backpack. This made-up bomb claim further shows that even she believed at the time that there was constitutional issues with her search, forcing her to attempt to salvage this debacle by making a spurious claim. Call it out, Karen. That's exactly what it looks like to everyone. She knew she screwed up when they found the clip and they're like, oh my God, he's got instruments of a crime in his backpack, but we need to have a warrant. How can I get out of this? I was afraid he had a bomb in there. Yeah, that's it. Afraid he's got a bomb. Everybody gather around. There might be a bomb in this thing. Oh my God. I seriously have some high blood pressure right now. And I've been doing good to keep my blood pressure under control. All right, Norkin. We still got blue paragraphs to read. We're probably not going to read orange tonight. I'm losing my voice. I'm losing my steam. We're probably not going to get to orange tonight, which is about the double jeopardy, and it's a big one. It's a big one. But my God, man, I need a break. I need to take a break, or I'm going to have an aneurysm. Let me take a soda. We're going to finish up blue, which is the illegal search and seizure. Nor can this search be justified as an inventory search, as the Court of Appeals has noted, because they try to say later on, well, we were just doing an inventory search of his backpack. An inventory search is exactly what the name suggests, a search designed to properly catalog the contents of the items that were searched. People versus Johnson and cited the law. Here, the officers were not inventorying or cataloging the contents of the backpack at McDonald's. That is clear from the fact that the officers did not write down what they were removing from his backpack, coupled with the fact that officers put the loaded gun magazine back in the backpack once they found it and stopped searching altogether. Oh, we were just making an inventory of what he had in his backpack. Bullshit! You weren't writing it down. You didn't write that down later until much later. So you weren't writing down what you were taking out of his backpack. You were looking for incriminating evidence. When the officers were, what the officers were doing instead was rummaging through the backpack. This is from Karen. What the officers were doing instead was rummaging through the backpack looking for evidence. Such conduct is not proper inventory search and is prohibited by the Supreme Court of New York law. See Florida versus Wells, and a law is stated there. Quote from that law, an inventory search must not be a ruse for generally rummaging in order to discover incriminating evidence. The policy or practice governing inventory searches should be designed to produce an inventory. The individual police officer must not be allowed so much latitude that inventory searches are turned into a purposeful and general means of discovering evidence of a crime. I don't know if I have to break that through the universal translator for you, but you cannot use the excuse of I'm taking inventory of the bag to search for evidence in a crime. That's not upheld by law. Because the officers had no basis for their warrantless search, the recovered evidence must be suppressed. If it's suppressed, people, there is no gun, there is no clip, there is no manifesto, there's no confession letter, there's no anything. All that's gone. Can't be mentioned to a jury. Which, by the way, the grand jury's already heard all that stuff. I'm certain of it. As the warrantless search was illegal, the district attorney has no basis to claim that the recorded evidence should be nevertheless not suppressed because the evidence would have been inevitably discovered by the police conducted an inventory search of the backpack at the precinct. So in other words, she's saying you can't do the whole, hey, we would have found this shit anyways. Even though we started doing it illegally, we would have found it anyways at the precinct. So you can ignore the fact that we were doing it illegally to start with because we would have found it anyways. You can't do that. And she cites the law on that proving that you can't do that. In New York, the Court of Appeals, because the Court of Appeals has to step in a lot of times when judges rule in favor of the law enforcement, because that's generally what they do. Well, hey, they're the law enforcement. They do things right. So I'll uphold that arrest. And then the Court of Appeals will be like, no, that's bullshit. They broke the law. Somebody needs to hold them accountable. The Court of Appeals further noted that admitting illegally obtained evidence through the inevitable discovery rule, what would amount to post hoc rationalization of the initial wrong, would be unacceptable delusion of the exclusionary rule and would defeat the primary purpose of the rule, deterrence of police misconduct. I feel like that needs to be run through the universal translator for you. What they're saying is, if you allow people to say after they've illegally searched your bag that they found something on you, then that allows police misconduct. You can't after the fact find out something after you broke the law and say, hey, I was just doing an inventory, so after the fact I found that there was evidence just like we knew all along. I'm going to come into your house and I'm going to search, and if I find drugs in your house, then I'm going to arrest you for drugs because I didn't have a reason to come into your house to search, but I'm just going to do it anyways, and if I find something after the fact, then I had reason to come into your house. Okay, blue. This court must suppress all the evidence obtained from the backpack, including but not limited to the gun, the silencer, Mr. Mangione's alleged writings, his electronic devices, and any evidence obtained from the fruit of illegally obtained evidence. That might be the end of blue. I'm scrolling down deep down into the document. No more blue. There you go, people. We're an hour and a half in. I've covered 2 of the 4 topics that I wanted to cover. The one we didn't get into is the double jeopardy. It's a long one. I don't have the energy for it, unfortunately. I'm sorry. The double jeopardy thing. It's a good one. It's a great one. It's got major issues. So let me take a breather. Let me take a break tonight. Let me think about how I want to do this. There's 2 ways I can do it. Maybe I'll have a second live. I'm going live with Birdie Bombshell on Monday, so it's not going to be then. It would be on my regular scheduled live on Wednesday. By then, it's going to be all old news. More than likely, what I'm going to do is I'm going to record this for TikTok, and for YouTube, and I'm going to put it in long form on YouTube. It'll either be in the free open section of YouTube, or it'll be in the member only section. I think the member only section will just be the extra purple stuff, all that enormous amount of purple stuff that had some great comments. The purple stuff I'm probably going to do for a members only area because it's not the major points, but it's good points. So I encourage you, of course, to subscribe, to like, to share, to show the love, to subscribe, to consider subscribing to my members only content. Super cheap on YouTube, $3. And then you get all kinds of extra rants where I get an aneurysm. Maybe you'll be there for when I finally pop a cork, and it won't happen on a live, it'll happen on a member only area. I'll have all kinds of stuff over there. So again, thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm super hot and sweaty. I've got lights in my face. I need to cool this area down. My camera overheated. But you bared with me anyways, at least a good 112 of you on TikTok and 30 on YouTube. With that, everyone, have a great night. Sorry I didn't get through the Double Jeopardy section and all the other stuff. I've got to take a break. I'm out. Hopefully this time I don't leave myself streaming like I did last time and you get to hear me say something embarrassing or do something horrible.